I'm here with Mike Keith, who has programmed all of the controls in the game, which means if you don't like the control, he's the person responsible for it. If you love it, or if you've never thought about the controls, which would be the best thing happening, then he's also responsible for it. Maybe what's the secret of a good game control?
Well, basically, like, it has to be intuitive for pretty much anyone who picks it up, and that was the main difficulty with Rogue 2, in that we were trying to do a full 3D flight game and yet have intuitive 2D controls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What makes a flight game easy to control, and what's the hard part about it? Because I mean, I remember that a lot of people were, after Rogue Squadron, were saying the controls were great, now do space. So we did space in Naboo, and a lot of people didn't get to grips with the space controls. So what's the big difference between a landscape below you and a space level?
The main difference is that with space, there's no real plane of reference for the player. And the big difficulty really is just being able to work out what the player wants to do in all situations, and without any kind of plane of reference, that makes it rather difficult.
So basically, what's the maximum control level? What the normal person understands is it's basically car control, right?
Yeah.
So as if you're on a street, just transposed into air.
That's right.
And then in space, the trick is the 360 degrees that you can fly everywhere.
Yeah.
But you would still expect car controls.
Yeah. You basically have to be able to work out where you are at any point and where you want to go. And with full 3D space, that's very difficult. So
specifically, I mean, players probably think they are playing with the same control the whole time. At least if you succeeded, if we succeeded in together with QA in designing that. But in reality, we've got a couple of different controls going on, right?
Yeah, and there's two main different controls, one for space levels and one for height map and tile levels. In some levels there's actually a combination. The main difference is that with this, as say like with space levels, there's no real plane of reference for the player.
But what happens if there really is one, like in the second part of Death Star 2, and it's a confusing one?
Oh, in the second part of Death Star 2, what I did was, what we did was, for certain parts of it, where it turned into a real 3D environment, it switched over to the space controls.
So basically, when you're going down, for example, and you're suddenly not in a car plane control thing, then it's space controls. We also have Chris Klie, who's level designer on Death Star 2. What was the specific problem? I mean, the surface thing is a variation of the first level, with the pressure of protecting the Falcon.
Right.
But the second part, of course, was the much more challenging. What was so problematic about it?
In terms of control, you mean, or
not so much control, everything. I mean,
everything. Yeah. Well, basically, Jamie Ermacher, one of our LDs, was good enough to. He spent a lot of time doing research and putting together all these little segments of the DS2 tunnel. Mm-hmm. And we knew we had to take a modular approach to the tunnel. We couldn't build it all as one long thing, so we had to build it in segments and then assemble those and sort of mix and match them. The biggest challenge for me was actually trying to work out the Falcon, its path through the tunnel, and also the TIE fighters, because that stuff had to be very dramatic. We wanted the Falcon and the TIE fighters to sort of roll and do all these crazy things in the tunnel while just narrowly missing obstacles. So that was quite a challenge. And also in terms of control, we wanted to surprise the player by introducing a bit of a vertical element. So there's this one segment of the tunnel where you go straight down. Mm-hmm. And as Mike mentioned before, that's where we, at that point, we're sort of cheating a bit with the controls, because we turned off the standard height map controls, which are a lot like car controls in that they level out automatically.
Yeah.
And we're turning that stuff off and turning on the space control, so that the player isn't leveling off and hitting his head on the ceiling.